Welcome to Ohanga. My name is Yu Ping. Today I will be visiting Anne at her home art studio. Anne is a painter and illustrator. She lives in Providence, Rhode Island. Anne is a member of the Providence Art Club, the Art League of Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Watercolor Society, and the New England Watercolor Society. Okay, let's get started. Anne, thanks for having us here. What are you working on today?
So this is a painting I started a while ago and just was getting really frustrated with it, so I stopped. And looking at it later with fresh eyes, I think it's not all lost, so I'm going back in now to try to add some finish it up. And what I'm doing right now is a lot of times when I paint with grass or trees, I use my spray bottle, and what's so cool about watercolors is that it just is so unpredictable. Some of it I can control, but some of it, I just dab onto that wet spot and it will just mix right on the paper and it will bleed down, and often I get really cool marks that I wouldn't necessarily think or be able to do if I just painted it directly.
Do you sometimes paint outside?
Sometimes I paint outside, and often what I do is that I go around, because the limited weather in Rhode Island, to be outside, so I'll go around and just spend days taking pictures. And sometimes I have my sketchbook when I'm doing that, sometimes I don't. And I'll take pictures and then come back here and just spend, again, hours going through my pictures, trying to find ones that I like and good compositions. So this came from that. This came from a day out walking around, taking photos, and then coming back and sorting through those photos. And sometimes the photos I take are just the wrong composition or the wrong, something. So I'll take a couple photos perhaps, and maybe, this foreground came from one image and this building from another. And I spend some time, creating the composition. And I often do value study first, and that's where I work out my composition and the values, and then I reference that often when I'm painting to go back, just so I don't get confused as I'm going. And I do that especially when I use more than one photo together, because keeping the values coherent is really important.
Can you explain a bit more what is value study?
Example of the value studies that I do, just little tiny thumbnail sketches, and this whole book is really full of lots of little doodles I've done, and then I turn it into a value study. So I use one color, and usually like between 3 and 5 values. So the lightest would be these waves down here. The second lightest would be the sky, and then the water, and then there's like maybe 2 other values that I've done here in the rocks and the trees. So that's an example of, and actually this was the notes. I was outside, I took a photo of this, but I also did a little sketch and a value study on site. And then these are all the notes that I took, or thoughts from poems. I love the poet Mary Oliver, and I reference her. Actually, almost all my paintings are named from lines in her poetry. So anyway, that's a value study where I just use one color to come up with all the values. And then as I'm going, I can look back and say, oh wait, I forgot. I made the sky too dark, or I made the water too light, so I have to go back and adjust. So.
Do you sometimes paint also from just imagination?
Well, I have done some illustrations before. I have a few I can show you, and that's when I do paint totally from my imagination, but I always use reference when I do that. So even if I'm painting from my imagination, I do not have the skill to be able to just draw without looking at something. So the work that I do now is always from observation.
Okay, got it.
Painting I did during a demo. So it's finished and just needs a frame. And then there's other ones that I have done that maybe I'm not quite happy with, like this one. This was actually, I painted with 2 of my girlfriends from high school, and we did it on FaceTime. And we all painted the same image. And they're both oil painters, and I decided to do this one in watercolors. So we all have our own version of this, which is kind of fun. We're all from images that I took on a painting trip last summer to Maine. So these were all from photos I took on that trip. Yeah, so I went last summer and spent a week with these two good friends from high school, and we were in Maine for a week with our high school painting teacher, who's retired from painting now and from teaching high school, and he runs painting trips all around the world. And so we thought it would be a fun reunion, girls trip, painting trip to go with him. So we did. We went. We were one of 14, a group of people that went and painted, and we just spent every day, and it was really wonderful because we were in Monhegan Island, Maine, which is really a painting island. I mean, there's a few people that live there year round, and people take day trips to go hiking because it's such a beautiful place. But it really is a haven for artists. And here, actually, these were other ones I did that week. This is a painting I did on site. These were all done on site in Maine that week. All of these. Yeah, all of these were from walking around in Maine that summer. This is in the forests. I think it goes that way. Yeah, we were a lot on the rocks of Maine. So
I read from your story on Ohanga that you were also an illustrator. Can you please tell us a bit more about that?
So I was at RISD for children's book illustration, and I joined the SCBWI, Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and went to a bunch of conferences, and I really enjoyed the people I met there, but it's a hard industry to break into. And I actually won an award for this painting. There was a prompt called "Can I Keep It?" And I don't have the actual painting because I sold the actual painting, which was really exciting, but this was the image I did for "Can I Keep It?" and I won the Emerging Artist Award that year. And I thought that would be it. That would be my big break into illustration. But right around that same time, I also joined the art club in Providence, and that was just brought me right back to my fine arts roots. So illustration has been on the back burner, and I've been doing more fine arts since then.
And what is this setup for?
What I use when I'm filming a class to put online, and I'm in the middle of doing this one. So I set up the light, and I have my video here, and I do in stages because it's really hard to talk and paint at the same time. But another one I did, a class I've already done, is on cherry blossom. So this was a painting I did just here, same like this, finished that completely, and that class is up online, so you can follow step by step to see how I painted that. And this one will be up hopefully soon.
How long have you been teaching online?
I've always wanted to teach art, and when COVID began, I had a show at the art club, and the show closed. But part of what we were supposed to do as artists is do a live demo. So I ended up filming that here at home, and that turned out really well and was received really well. So I thought, well, let's try to turn it into something more formal. So I started filming classes here and put my first one up. And again, it was received really well, and I really enjoyed the process of doing that. It was helpful to learn how to think and paint at the same time and talk about what I was doing. And so I'm working on my second one right now, and hopefully this will be up soon.
Thank you, Anne, for having us here. When we interviewed Anne last time, she told us, art is for and in everyone. Simply living life as a human is a creative endeavor. Passion and commitment, not perceived talent, is what counts. What I saw from Anne is passion and commitment, in addition to talent. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us today. See you next time.